Well, thanks so much, Carol, and can I thank Talia for the welcome to country, and I also pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. To my friend Stephen Jones, we will miss you, mate, but in Carol you have found, and the Labor Party in the Illawarra and the electorate of Whitlam, which of course these days is a vast electorate in the Southern Highlands. It's an electorate where I think every member who represents another seat would like to be the member for Whitlam. I've got to say, you have found a fantastic candidate, and the Labor Party is in good hands in Carol Berry. Stephen has been a very loyal and close friend of mine for well before he went into politics. He has a great Labor heart, and he's always worn it on his sleeve. He's been a great local member, a fantastic minister, and a true friend. And I know that he will be missed in the federal parliament, but at the next stage of his life, I got to go to the wedding last year with Brooke and Stephen, and I know that we all wish him well, and I do want to say thank you for what you have done. To Alison and Fiona, who are staying, to all of the state members who are here, to local councillors, the mayor, everyone who is here, Labor faithful, one and all. It is indeed a fantastic opportunity for me to give the second time I've given the major address at the Whitlam annual dinner. Last week marked the 17-year anniversary of my proudest day as a Member of Parliament, when Prime Minister Kevin Rudd delivered the national apology to the stolen generations. This was a moment of grace that brought together the Parliament and united the country. Those are rare occasions in an adversarial democracy such as ours. But the 21st of October 2014 was another such day. On that Tuesday morning, the flag over the Parliament was lowered to half-mast. The arguments of the moment were set aside, and members from all points on the political compass offered their tributes to the life and legacy of Gough Whitlam. I concluded my speech that day by saying, the legacy of our political contribution can be judged by its permanency, because I realised as member after member spoke that day to reflect on Gough's achievements, they were not talking in the past tense, making healthcare universal, creating opportunity through education, developing our cities, our regions and suburbs, nourishing the aspiration of home ownership, pursuing reconciliation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, asserting the equality of women in our laws, our society and our economy, engaging with our region as a nation in charge of our own destiny. These are not historical artefacts. They are acts of progress, vision and ambition that still define modern Australia. Acts we continue to build on, that continue to make a positive difference to people's lives. Gough's legacy lives around us. It inspires us, but it also teaches us. Acts we continue to build on, that continue to make a positive difference to people's lives. Because one of the lessons that every Labor person learns from the Whitlam government and the Hawke and Keating governments and the Rudd and Gillard governments is that we are at our best when we build to last, when we deliver reforms that are as enduring as the great Labor values that we hold, when we deal with the challenges in front of us in a way that builds for the opportunities ahead of us, when we anticipate and create the better future that our people deserve. Delivering that, securing it, Ensuring every Australian shares in it takes more than one term of government. That's why the next election is so important, because it's the difference between making 3 years of progress or creating a generation of opportunity. It's the difference between cleaning up the mess of the last decade or seizing the opportunities of the next decade. The difference between laying the foundations and finishing the build. In the past 3 years, we've got inflation down, wages up, and kept employment strong. And this week, the hard work that Australians have done has delivered the first cut in interest rates since 2020. We have delivered back-to-back budget surpluses, the first in 20 years, and a tax cut for all 13.6 million Australian taxpayers, not just some. And in the next 3 years, we can do better and go further. We can build an economy that works for people, not the other way around. An economy that creates wealth and opportunity. An economy that is stronger and fairer. Indeed, an economy that is stronger because it is fairer. In the past 3 years, we've delivered the biggest increase to rent assistance in 30 years, and we've been building, renovating and investing in new housing right across Australia. In the next 3 years, we can help hundreds of thousands of Australians into home ownership to realise that dream and know the security of a roof over their head. In the past 3 years, we have delivered 600,000 free TAFE places. In the next 3 years, we can make TAFE a permanent feature of our vocational education and training system. In the past 3 years, we have fixed the unfair spike in indexation for 3 million Australians with a student debt, saving them more than $3 billion. But in the next 3 years, we can cut 20% off student debt and make sure that a university education is in reach of every Australian who aspires to that opportunity. In the past 3 years, we've delivered a 15% pay rise for 200,000 early educators and made childcare cheaper for more than 1 million families. In the next 3 years, we can take the next steps to universal childcare, affordable for every Australian family. In the past 3 years, we've opened 87 Medicare urgent care clinics and helped millions more Australians see a doctor for free. In the next 3 years, we can go beyond rescuing Medicare. We can strengthen it and expand it for all Australians. In the past 3 years, we have funded a 15% pay increase for aged care workers, and we've put a registered nurse in aged care homes 99% of the time. In the next 3 years, we can make sure that aged care guarantees dignity and security for every Australian. In the past 3 years, we have taken the gender pay gap to its lowest level in history. In the next 3 years, we can work together to close it once and for all. In the past 3 years, we have legislated for same job, same pay. And today BHP have done a major deal that will now result in literally hundreds of workers getting an additional $1,000 a week every week. That's what same job, same pay will deliver. In the past 3 years, we've put our plan for a future made in Australia into law. In the next 3 years, we can bring its benefits to workers and communities right across our nation, including right here in the Illawarra. You might have noticed we did a bit of that in Whitlam, another great steel town, in the last couple of days. Now, our government has made it very clear. We will always stand up for Australian steel and for Australian aluminium. We will always stand up for Australian jobs and Australian industries. We'll back Australian industry to compete and succeed in global markets and create good, well-paid, secure jobs. And we'll back our manufacturers here at home. We want a new generation of good blue-collar and engineering jobs to add value to the resources under our soil on our shores, to build our economic resilience, our self-reliance and our sovereignty, to make sure that in this age of global uncertainty, we can stand on our own 2 feet. That is why we've stepped up to support jobs in Whitlam. It's why we're investing $2 billion to secure the future of the Australian aluminium industry. We know that Australia can absolutely export the green energy and iron and steel that's vital for the global shift to net zero. But we can and must do more than that. Australian workers can manufacture the components and technology that will build Australia's future. Labor invests in TAFE and apprenticeships because we believe that a government's first instinct should be to train Australians for new jobs rather than looking overseas for new workers. Our government will bring that same approach to the things our workers make and the materials that they use. Local content requirements, the requirements for governments to buy local, must be stronger and work better. We'll work directly with the states and territories, businesses and unions on new ambitious targets for local content, because we want local content to become the national standard. And we'll lead by example. Tonight I announced that our government will invest $500 million through the Future Made in Australia Innovation Fund to drive new jobs in clean energy manufacturing, starting with wind tower fabrication. Every new wind tower needs hundreds of tonnes of steel. Why should that steel come from anywhere but here? This is a steel city. Steel making in the Illawarra has delivered generations of good blue-collar jobs. It's the same story for aluminium processing in Gladstone, the Hunter Valley, Bell Bay and Portland. Communities grow and thrive around these industries. They are vital to our economic security, but they're also vital to our national security. Our economic plan is about keeping your community and your industries strong in the face of global uncertainty and investing in the skills and energy to power the next generation of jobs and opportunities, turning Australian iron into Australian steel and turning steel into fabricated steel and manufactured steel products for Australia to use and the world to buy. More blue-collar jobs in green metals and more steel in wind towers and transmission infrastructure and large-scale solar. We will put Australian steel in every link of the supply chain and will help Australian workers benefit in every part of the country. Friends, this is the future that we want to build, but we can't do it without the energy and the enthusiasm of the true believers in this room. We need your help as campaigners and advocates, making those phone calls, knocking on doors, handing out on pre-poll, explaining the choice but also explaining what is at stake. When Whitlam was last in trouble, the federal government didn't deliver a single cent in support of those workers. And hence, the issues that were there just got pushed down the track. The same government, of course, that preceded us told the car industry to bugger off from Australia. I want, and we need, an Australia that makes things here, that has manufacturing at its core. And that is what is at stake. A Labor government meeting the demands and opportunities of the future, or the leftovers of the Morrison government, the worst elements of what was a bad government, pushing the fears and the habits of the past. A Labor government delivering the reforms and securing the progress that our people and our nation deserves, or a Liberal national coalition determined to wreck it all. That's the choice, but it's also the risk. Because one of the hardest lessons of our history is that the work that we have begun can be undone if we're not in government to protect it and build it. We saw that last time. You remember what it was like. And they have the hide to use as their slogan, back on track. Well, we know what was back behind us. A fibre NBN was abandoned for copper. Aged care was plunged into crisis. The NDIS was pushed to breaking point. TAFE and apprenticeships were hollowed out. The car industry was driven offshore. Women's policy was treated as a curiosity, not as a priority. A decade of delay and denial over climate change ran our national energy grid into the ground and put Australia a decade behind the world on renewables. And of course, we saw it with Medicare. Friends, 50 years ago, Gough Whitlam warned the men and women of Australia that the same Liberal Party which fought tooth and nail against Medibank, and remember, we needed the double dissolution election to get it put in place, the same Liberal Party which had taken every chance to obstruct and deny universal health care to Australians in opposition would not hesitate to dismantle it in government. And he said this, "Don't think it cannot happen with Medibank. It has happened once and the Liberals would do it again." He was right then, and he's been proven right time and time again. Because whenever the Liberals come to government promising cuts, Medicare is always the first place that they look. We saw it when Peter Dutton was Tony Abbott's health minister. $50 billion ripped out of public hospitals. An attempt to put in place a GP tax every time people visited the GP, abolishing bulk billing. A tax every time people visited a hospital, an emergency department, and a tax on medicines. And when he couldn't get his way with all of that, he imposed a 6-year freeze on the Medicare rebate that saw bulk billing go into freefall. The same vicious ideology running through all of it, making people who are sick pay more. At this election, we're up against the same plan being pushed by the same people, because Peter Dutton wasn't a bit player or a bystander in the decade that the Liberals spent in power. He was a senior cabinet minister right the way through. He made the mess, he dug the hole, he put bulk billing in free fall and broke the migration system. He spent 10 years creating the problems and has spent the last 3 years opposing the solutions. Peter Dutton's record in government and his conduct in opposition means that at this year's election, the choice on Medicare is more important than ever before. Our government will go to the Australian people with a proud record of protecting Medicare and a comprehensive plan to strengthen it. For more than 50 years, Australians have known that Labor is the party of universal health care, and Australians can be certain that the same Liberal Party which voted against cheaper medicine in opposition will make it more expensive if they get into government. The Liberal Party which called our Medicare urgent care clinics wasteful spending in opposition will close them in government. And the Liberal leader who said tripling the bulk billing incentive was a sugar hit, to quote him, in opposition, will cut bulk billing in government. While we know the Liberals will start with cutting Medicare, they won't stop there, because they can't. They have to find $600 billion for 7 nuclear reactors that won't be ready for 20 years. Their nuclear costings are a farce, but their plan is not a joke. It is a real threat to everything that matters to Australians: jobs and wages, education and Medicare, our economy and our environment. And the only way to stop it is to re-elect our Labor government when the election is held. In conclusion, can I say that we can all take pride in the fact that we belong to Australia's oldest and greatest political party, a movement as old as the fair go in Australia is itself. We honour our Labor heroes, and there's many of them here in this room tonight, the life members. We treasure our history, but our mission isn't about the past. Our mission is always about the future, understanding the past, learning the lessons of the past, but focused on the future, meeting its demands, seizing its opportunities, deepening the meaning of Australian fairness and broadening its reach, strengthening the foundations of our social democracy, liberating the talents of our people, driving the reform that holds no one back, delivering the progress that leaves no one behind, building Australia's future stronger and fairer than ever before. That's why we are so determined to win the next election. With your help, we not only can, we will. Thanks very much.